Okay, Daniel Coheur. Yeah, I think I got two mics now, right? So I'm going to drop this one and bada bing. Sorry about that. Danielle is the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Tokeny Solutions. He's a longtime entrepreneur, been building things for a couple of decades now, right? And you ran your own investment boutique, right? And you work today with investment banks and other financial institutions, get them involved in the tokenization evolution and revolution, which we're all part of here, and you are helping, companies, financial organizations adopt distributed ledger technology today, right? That's pretty much what you're up to?
I think that we first met at the Security Token Academy.
Yeah.
That is 5 years back.
Yeah.
At that time, you were already a recognized player in the industry. We were not. We were just starting. So we saw you at the big guys, and it was a great event, by the way. Remember?
Yeah. It was, and Bruce Fenton, who was the first keynote of that, is going to be here speaking tomorrow.
Oh, great.
So
yeah. I think what we've been doing since then is trying to develop an ecosystem, and I think that there are people like Pat that are taking that from Inveniam that are taking that to the next level. But I think what we have been struggling for the last 5 years is to demonstrate how this technology can change the financial ecosystem. We are self-convinced of that, and we see more and more people like you participating in those events and starting to embrace that vision. But it's taking time. But what we are doing, and I think that is paramount, and there are a lot of people here in this audience that are doing the same thing, is to educate, is to explain, and to bring this ecosystem forward. Because if we do that on our side, with our own service and solution, believing that we are the king of the world and the winner takes it all, and this is basically our chance to have the F money, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And what Tokeny has been doing is focusing on something that is specific, which is commonly referred to tokenization, which it's a difficult time to be a tokenization player because there are a lot of different ways to do tokenization. It's not easy to explain why one way is better than the other and why it's creating more value. I think that time will tell. Obviously, this is probably the best way to address this problematic, but to remain focused on what we do, and what we do is simply compliance. There are different ways to do tokenization. You can do that on private blockchain. And for that, you don't need any solution specific because the compliance and the governance is being taken care by the chain itself. And you can do that on public chain. And on public chain, this is more complicated because you could, of course, do an ERC-20 for those who are familiar with the standard token, which is something that I wouldn't say my kid can do because he's 9, but probably next year will. So you can do that for $20 and create an ERC-20 token, and you have tokenized your security. If you do that, obviously, you have a token that is non-permission. That means that if I send you this token, you will get it. In a sense, this is supposed to be doing that, so it's doing the right thing. But if you deal with security, you deal with a lot of regulation, and you need to make sure that your token will respect those regulations and enforce them. And this is what Tokeny has been doing for the last 5 years with a team of 30 people. We build a standard which is based on the open source protocol, ERC-20, that we have beefed up. Now we have rebranded after being recognized by the Ethereum community that we have the sole compliance framework in the industry. We rebranded that to the ERC-3643. We bundled that with an identity solution because obviously we all know that investors must be KYC'd. It's not about whitelisting a wallet. If you whitelist a wallet, then I can give you the key and then you become the legit owner of that. That doesn't mean that you've been KYC'd. So we are bundling that with an identity solution, again, open source, and all of that is available on GitHub for free. So we believe very much in the Linux model, where Linux still make a decent business out of having, put everything open source. So we did the same. We believe, and that is true, that tokenization will become a commodity. it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. And this is probably where we have to do a bit of work on explaining what we do and what is the value of that framework and standard. But we do believe that the value of tokenization will come after, once you have created those representation in the proper way, and then you can start adding services on the top of that to benefit from the technology. I mentioned the difference between public and private. We are solely on Ethereum and all EVM compatible blockchain. That means that they are developed under Solidity. So once they are under the same programming language, they are all compatible. So we are fully compatible with that, and we see that this is the next generation of services from our industry, or the one that will really create value from the industry, will come from those technology. That was a long monologue, no?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Yeah, when we got started, we were using Ethereum and Ethereum only for our first product. Our first product that we ran our STO on in 2017, 2018 was actually a due diligence platform. And we used smart contracts to verify identity, create an identity graph. And it was kind of, it was a solution to a problem that we had in my previous business, where we almost had a very big venture round collapse because of human capital due diligence. So we ended up using Ethereum for that, and then we ran our STO to raise money. We created our own token to do this, and then we had selling a digital asset security, the security token, in early 2018 was really difficult because people didn't understand some of the considerations that you take into account. They were interested in buying bearer asset, ERC20, cryptocurrencies that they could get cheap in a pre-sale and then flip. And
we had all those marketing tools,
Yeah.
You had the counter on your website, counting down, and FOMO,
we had the Telegram bots,
flying tokens.
all that stuff, and and to your comment about tokenization being a commodity, we took a look around at that time, and we sought to work with some folks that we thought might be better than we were at writing a token. And we talked to a couple other folks in the market. I won't name names because they're companies that still exist. And
But you can ask us during the.
Yeah. And we didn't find that they were particularly more adept than we were. So we wrote our own token, and the process of creating our own digital asset security in 2017, 2018 led us to imbue the token with trade and transfer restrictions because, as you were saying about compliance and identity, we couldn't just put out an ERC20 and call it a security token because it would just kind of freely float. And so we got into we got into our current business by going through that process. And what we found, and kind of to your point about commodities, when we were doing our offering, the folks that we were talking to wanted to charge $100,000 or $200,000 to create a token.
I have to admit, we did.
Yeah, and congratulations for doing that. And I thought that was absolutely awesome. Because I thought that was a huge attack surface and that wouldn't last. And so we took a look at that and we said, well, that's too expensive. If you want to get adoption for something, you don't max out the price. You do the exact opposite. I thought that the early days of tokenization were filled with of course, a lot of hype, but it was very expensive. I mean, they're $100,000 to 200,000 to create a token, and then the folks issuing the token would take 2% or 3% of your raise. They'd issue a token to a bunch of wallets, and then they're like, "We're out of here," and
Without any broker-dealer license, by the way?
yeah, and didn't have broker-dealer licenses. And I mean, the companies that were in that business then are still in the industry today, and they had to change themselves. Well, what that did was the experience that we went through, we found that there are a lot of folks who could write tokens, but there was there were token issuance platforms, companies similar to what we were doing at the time. And then there were ATSs that were being stood up, like some of the ones that are here. But what we didn't see was this really important part in the middle, which was like, who owns my token? And the idea of like just shipping it to a wallet, I thought was difficult. I'm a former CFO and corporate secretary, and I've been used to running cap tables. So we had this completely like total failure with the raising money on this token. But we did get one really, really valuable insight, is that like someone was going to have to manage the data. And so we moved into digital asset data management and transfer agency in early 2018 with an understanding. My belief at the time was that Tokeny and some of the other folks, TokenSoft, who's not actually in the security token business anymore, they were going to create these tokens, and they would just end up being hosted on our system. I figured that there was a need for that because how many folks here honestly like use MetaMask? Yeah, like less than half, maybe half of the room, less than half. And this is a conference that's in like the digital asset space.
Be honest, was it more than you expected or less?
It was probably about right. I mean, half of them were friends of mine, and I know that they're mostly for NFTs and stuff like that. But I maintain today, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in opening thing about kind of where I think we are in the ecosystem. I don't want to jump ahead, but I just thought that the wallets were hard. I thought that wallets were hard. So what we ended up doing was creating a keyless custodial wallet in our system, because I didn't want to be shipping to these MetaMask self-sovereign wallets and then have to be answering calls all day like I lost my private keys. And then the next opportunity that we saw was we thought that we could create a standard token similar to yours, and we could make it just a couple of clicks and charge almost nothing for it. And that's kind of where we landed on tokenization. We said, well, let's make tokenization super easy. Let's make custodying the token super easy. And the two companies that we used as our inspirations, and some people will remember these companies and some won't. The first one was America Online. Does anyone here like have any of those discs that you got in the mail? Like half of all CDs ever produced in the universe were produced by America Online. And the reason why America Online is so inspirational is that back when all the computers were made out of wood, I was a technology consultant, and I used to have to teach old people how to get on the internet. And there's nothing scarier than a modem and a control and a command line. And there aren't too many Unix people probably. Like how many people here boot Unix on their laptop? Okay, of course Nitin boots Unix on his laptop, okay? It's probably Ubuntu, okay? So he's, and so that's, when I got involved in technology, when America Online came up, it was revolutionary because suddenly I could teach all the old partners at Arthur Andersen, where I worked, like how to get onto the internet And then, of course, they started sending dirty messages to their secretaries. But, you know, but I mean, there's always unintended consequences of technology, and I'm so sorry for those folks. And so the user interface part, to me, is was one of the reasons why we simplified tokenization. And then the other inspiration in our business was Coinbase. And Coinbase has 62, 65, 70 million accounts. And none of the people on there they don't need to know anything about tokens, and they don't need to know anything about wallets. And the reason why they were so successful as compared to insert DeFi protocol here, Uniswap or Polkadot or any of these things, is because normals can go and buy and sell crypto. And same thing with OpenSea and NFTs. Normals can use Coinbase, and they don't need to know anything about tokens. They don't need to know anything about wallets. I mean, the powerful thing I think that you and I probably both agree on is that tokenization has the opportunity to create programmable assets that have certain qualities, such as trade and transfer restrictions, where it can be traded, like how much you can sell at a certain time, tendering. There's a whole bunch of things that you can program into a token. But for the most part, tokens, managing your own tokens for a lot of folks is complicated. So,
Yeah, well, we obviously are totally aware to that conclusion. We have also implemented solutions through third party like Tokeny and Fireblocks that enable to hide completely the complexity of the wallet part. Especially with our compliance framework, the wallet is not important because we have an agent role that enable to size any token in whatever wallet. So it's completely irrelevant how secure the wallet is because we have that function. I think what is relevant for what we do is we are building potentially different models. First, because we came from different markets. In Europe, we have other complexity that we have to deal with. We don't necessarily have the need to have, for example, a transfer agent to manage cap table. And it's good, I think, that we have different models because it serves different needs. At a certain point of time, those models converge, because I think that is great with technology, especially if we use technology that has some level of interoperability. We can bridge those solutions to try to achieve what, I heard the word a couple of times today, liquidity. I think that in private market, liquidity is going to be very difficult to achieve simply by the numbers of assets we're referring to. If you look at an exchange such as Euronext, which is a shareholder of Tokeny, they operate in 8 countries. They are the incumbent. They exist for 150 years. They have in total 2,000 securities listed on the infrastructure. And the reality is that on exchange, you don't have liquidity. You have instant liquidity. And you have instant liquidity because, first of all, you have to publish your quarterly reports. Then you have a rating agency that assess your level of risk. And once your level of risk is identified, you have market maker that are, by the way, paid by exchanges that provide liquidity on the exchange. And that this whole ecosystem that provides liquidity. In private market, first of all, how do you price the asset? First thing. If you cannot price the asset, then how can you assess the risk of the asset? And once you've done that, how do you have market makers that are willing to create liquidity for your assets? So I think that we have to come down to be honest with ourselves with regards to liquidity and what this technology would enable to do. But what it certainly can do is, because we are going to have actionable data, is to provide some form of liquidity. We believe very much in collateral, for example, because you have actionable data. But also it reduces your illiquidity cost. So it's not provide liquidity, but once you have an asset that is illiquid, the thing that you need to do to sell it is to drop your price. So if you have an investment in a closed-end fund that you're going to commit for 10 years, if you are going to sell it, you're not interested to sell it overnight, but you're interested to sell it at the right price. So the first thing that those solutions should be provided in the market is a way to create discoverability, is to have an eBay for private instrument where you know that when you need to sell, you can go somewhere and find counterparties. And then if you have enough counterparties, have a price that is, the right one for you. And for that, obviously, we need assets and we need participants. So, but we have to be honest also with them that it's not because you're going to list your assets on an ATS that you're going to have liquidity. That's going to take time to get there. But for that, you need to have company like ours that obviously focus on the things that are totally not sexy, which is the plumbing. Well, in certain movie, plumbing can be sexy, but other than that, it's not really sexy. But that's what we do, right? So and create what you were saying earlier. It's make that totally invisible. So we manage the part that is totally not sexy, and we make sure that as much as you are using your email today, you don't care if it is TCP/IP, if it is SMTP, unless you migrate your laptop and suddenly you have this window popping up asking you, and then you freak because you don't know how to do it. But normally you don't care. So we have to create that level of service to you so that it's become invisible and you just focus on doing your business and not on the technology behind. That's really our role here, is to provide that level of comfort and what you're doing with Vertalo, which is to providing this ecosystem where every counterparty can plug and play and continue delivering the service as per the mandate that they have received. This is exactly our role. And you can focus on doing your business.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing there. Significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I think that's a paraphrase someone said. Also, you have no idea what database Facebook uses to store cat pictures, and you just can load up that cat picture, and you don't know anything about anything that went on in that process, and you don't need to know until we get to Facebook. I can't use Snap, by the way. I'm apparently too old to figure out how to use Snap, but which is a great way. It keeps parents off of it. Seriously, right? I mean, how about this? Who can use Snap? I want to see the hands of people who use Snap. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. Some perverts and mostly young people. So, okay.
And you can be both, by the way.
Yeah. So abstracting the complexity away is pretty important, and I think that we're both doing that. And the other thing is also making it easy to work with as a company, right? So we just have a couple of minutes left here before the secret panel that's right after this. It's lawyers. That we're going to actually lock the door.
SEC waiting
No, we're going to lock the doors from the outside so you can't get out. No, they're actually my friends. I like them. They're nice folks. So tell us about your go-to-market model. How do you work? How do you work with clients? Who should call Tokeny and why?
Well, the answer would have been probably different a couple of years ago because. If you see how the market has been building, we first had those ICOs, so people were raising a crazy amount of money, and they were mostly single issuer, and then we had to build a platform to enable onboarding of investors, KYC, and then we were delivering, in that case, ERC20 tokens that do not need to be serviced after that, so that was the end of the game. Then we had this STO wave that was, I guess, much shorter than anyone expected. I don't even know if there was a wave. There was a mini wave probably, but very few companies raised money doing that. Our focus from the very beginning was to focus on institutional clients, and therefore now when we approach customers, it's more to explain the role that Tokeny wants to take in the future, which is really to act as a kind of middleware between business applications and the infrastructure. So we step away from onboarding single issuer, with the exception of digital marketplaces, where indeed there we see a lot of innovation, especially in real estate. So people that come with strong expertise in some vertical that want to disrupt the industry, and there we use those old solution to onboard and enable to deliver the tokens. And there the process is very simple. They usually come with a project which is already quite well established because they've been doing their homework. They come with their lawyers, so they know what's going to issue. We explain them that they cannot do that in that country because you cannot move an asset and make it available for raising money in another country because there are tax consideration. For some reason, when people deal about tokens, they forgot everything, right? They think it's a different asset class. They think they can set up SPV everywhere. That doesn't work like that. So you have to follow security law, and that's what we have to do. And in that case, we work with the ecosystems, marketing company, lawyers, and we provide the technology when the project is ready. And that's really the go-to market from our perspective. But as I said, the focus more today is on trying to acknowledge that there is a real infrastructure now that is the blockchain. And I do believe personally that all securities, not maybe all, but quite a large share of that will be dematerialized on this infrastructure simply because this is more efficient to host assets that has a value and to transfer those assets. And I think that this vision is shared by very large companies. We didn't mention it earlier, but Apex is a recent investor in Tokeny. They have 3 trillion of assets that they manage for their client, including BlackRock. They have 5,900 customers, and they've committed to bring 1 trillion of assets on the blockchain in the next 3 years. Obviously, when you do that, what you create is you remove the stickiness in the market that you have with your client, because if the asset is on the blockchain, then it's good enough to point the API to a different provider, and the migration is taking place. There is no heavy migration to do at this stage. So you remove the stickiness. So all those companies will have to now work on what are the services that we are going to add on those assets to create again the stickiness and start making money, because everybody knows that the asset servicing business is one that is not creating revenue. That's why they've been doing a lot of acquisition lately. And that's really what we see is there will be this next wave of technology solutions that will start creating value, that will start to action the data, and we're going to see some crazy things, I think. And that's really what I see as being the exciting future for us, because I don't think that we have disrupted anything so far. I think that in the next probably 2 to 3 years, when we will have enough assets, we're going to see a lot of disruption.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we do things very similar, slightly different in a couple of ways. I love the go-to-market. I mean, this is our go-to-market at Vertalo is actually here in the room. We partner with all the folks in here, the ones who are our partners, because they're expert at what they do, and we don't want to work. We don't go pursue single issuers, rather pursue partnerships and create a network which brings business across, like in this whole room. As you all join, what we're doing, and Tokeny, who I think is going to be part of the network, sometime, soon, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That all the benefits that are brought by the players, everyone can kind of do what they do best. And then we're going to see some really interesting things happen with tokens. I'm going to talk more about why a year or 2 years from now is going to be very, very similar to 3 years ago in this industry. That's how I'm going to start tomorrow, by going back to the future and talking about some of the things that Daniel and I have discussed here, where I think the market's going, and why I'm so excited about it. And I think that tokenizing the world actually will become true soon. And there's so many reasons for that, and it's outstanding. Thanks very much for sharing Tokeny with the audience here. Thanks for coming from Monaco, by the way.
I don't live in Monaco.
Yeah.
Across the street, it's called Beau Soleil.
Yeah.
It's 6 times cheaper.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, and they didn't impound your yacht, did they? Right?
Well,
you got out of
I'm
the
Belgian,
harbor.
so that I'm still safe. We do
Okay.
just chocolate and French fries. That's it, right? You cannot go to jail for that.
And eel. So you have the eel with green sauce, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we don't live in the same Belgium.
No, man. Oh, they told me it was the national food.
They had fun still.
Well, thank you very much, Danielle. And we've got